Yo, hello, and welcome to the Compendium of Discomfort. My name is Michael, and we're here today to talk about two movies because I watched them both and I feel like somehow they make a good team. One is愛に乱暴, A Rude to Love, and the other one is Namibia no Sabaku, so Desert of Namibia, with this lady again. It's a big breakout year this year, even though she has done a lot of good stuff before, but she's now everywhere, and that's Yumi Kawai, and we have talked about her recently in Sayonara Girls. And she was in Look Back at the Summer Film Plan 75, and so on. I explained that in the other episode. Wonderful, wonderful, gorgeous actress that does everything now, and now she's in big, depressing dramas. And we have in this movie Daichi Kaneko, who was in It's a Summer Film as well. I didn't even notice that. And he was recently in A Hand, which was one of the Nikatsu Roman porno reboots, like second reboot, and it was the worst of that triple pack. Still fine, but and he was in this movie Winnie, which I need to watch. It seems to be really, really good, but still haven't seen it. Then we have Kenichiro Sato, who was in Kitano's Kubi, and, for example, in Theater, A Love Story by Isao Yukisada, another very depressing relationship movie. Then we have Yuzumi Shintani, who was in the One Day You Will Reach the Sea by Ryutaro Nakagawa, who's another director who you should keep an eye on because his stuff is really, really good. And we have Keisuke Horibe, for example, in Love Exposure or Taste of Tea, or some other Party 7 and Shark Skin Man and Peach Hip Girl. And Makiko Watanabe, the same here, another Love Exposure actress, but Still the Water, or Slow but Steady, and A Zebra Man. And we have Ayumu Nakajima, who was, for example, in Wheel of Fortune and Fantasy, and the very, very wonderful Ito, which you should watch if you get the chance. I think it was at the Japanese Film Festival online, and since now they have their regular program, maybe it will come back there? And he's in a movie that looks very interesting. I saw the trailer today twice. It's called Happy End by Neo Soda. Very, very interesting about some future Tokyo. So anyway, that's Desert of Namibia by Yoko Yamanaka, who hasn't done much that I know of, but she is a filmmaker who maybe we should keep an eye on as well. And the other movie we're talking about, Rude to Love, by Yukihiro Morigaki, who has done some more movies. I think the most famous here is The Night Beyond the Three-Cornered Window. Looked interesting, but I haven't seen it. Anyway, it has done a little bit more, and the cast is pretty simple, basically just 4 people. We have Noriko Eguchi, most famous for Swing Girls or Fish Story, but she was, for example, in Gamera the Brave and Memories of Matsuko as well. Then we have Kotaro Koizumi, who has done some stuff like Bayside Shakedown, and he was in this Hound of Baskerville Sherlock Holmes movie, but nothing really that's very famous. But the more famous one here is Jun Fubuki. Was in a lot of Ghibli movies. For example, yeah, Boy and the Heron from Up on Poppy Hill. But some Kiyoshi Kurosawa like Pulse or Charisma, and some Hirokazu Koreeda like Father, like Son, Our Little Sister, and here they call me Chihiro. And she was in Gamera, Guardian of the Universe. And oh, here in my favorite movie, The Fighter Pilot, she was as well. Oh, isn't that lovely? No, but she has done many, many great things, and The Fighter Pilot. And then we have Fumika Baba, who was, for example, in another film that I didn't like that much. That's the violence action. Yeah, but here she was in that Netflix movie, or no, is it a show or movie? I forgot. Final Fantasy 14 Dead of Light, which I haven't seen, but I know some people who like it. Anyway, why am I putting these two movies together? Because first, they're both in 4:3, which was really confusing. Like, I mean, it's very normal that every now and then a movie like that shows up, but two in a row was an interesting experience. Like, how? Well, I like 4:3, and why not? But it's funny. It's funny. Yeah, and both basically live off the performances of their main actresses. So Yumi Kawai and Noriko Eguchi, and both do a very good job. Everything I say, Desert of Namibia is in all regards a better movie. So that's a 5, and Route to Love is a 4. Still fine, but more problems. But yeah, both live just based on the performance of the main actress, and both of these main actresses go kind of crazy in these movies for different reasons, and that's very interesting to follow. So, quick overview what it's about. Desert of Namibia is a very long movie, 132 minutes, and compared to Samurai in Time, you feel the time. Not in a bad way, but it feels long. It's basically the story of a woman who goes out with her friend after hearing from her that one of her old school friends passed away, probably, yeah, ended his life, and they feel a little bit down, so they go partying, and she leaves her friend there with some random guys to meet her boyfriend, and they go home, and he leaves her in the taxi. She keeps going a little bit to her boyfriend, so to the other one, and yeah, basically the movie keeps going with her handling her life, making decisions about this relationship issue that she has, and yeah, going further down a mental decline. It becomes pretty ugly near the end, but that's something for the spoiler zone. And in Route to Love, it's very similar. We have lady who's maybe twice the age of our protagonist in Desert of Namibia. I think she's supposed to be like 21 or so. And here we have a middle-aged lady who is married and takes care of her house and makes delicious food for her husband, and makes sure the house looks nice and everything. And somehow her husband doesn't really care about all of that, and she has to live next to her mother-in-law, and the mother-in-law is not the exactly friendliest person when it comes to her. Yeah, so there are a lot of issues, and she always looks at the Twitter feed of someone who writes about her affair with a married man who knows what's going on. And that here as well, all this whole situation takes a toll on her mental state, and takes her to quite some extremes. And while Desert of Namibia is a very, let's say, modern movie with interesting, glitchy music and interesting portray of this depression. Let's say I would guess it's some kind of depression here on Letterboxd, another issue named, but let's stay with depression. I'm forgot if it's mentioned in the movie. Maybe I didn't understand that phrase because I have no idea about words for mental illnesses in Japanese. I don't know. She has some mental issues, and it's a very, very slow movie. Like I read this summary on Letterboxd, and I was like, where is that stuff that they are writing about? When does that come? And it takes a long, long time until we get from behavior that's not amazing, but not that strange for someone in their early 20s, to, okay, we have a problem. Yeah, the movie takes a long time to do that, and does it quite believable, and it becomes a very depressing situation later, and it's all presented in a very, I would say, naturalistic way, which is quite interesting because later they present her mental state in a much more surrealist way, which I preferred much, much more. I thought the movie gets really interesting there, and for me that could have been much, much more, and maybe it would be less effective if there was more of that, but I would have liked more of the little bit surreal visualization of her mental state. Would be super, super interesting. But like that, it's a little bit at the end. It could have been more. And we just see it from the outside. Which is fine, I guess. It works very well. Like I said, it takes a very long time. It's a super, super slow burn movie, so I suppose it could be better or more interesting with a rewatch, because you know where you're going. You can look for little hints and signs and stuff, and maybe it's easier to get an idea of what she does for what reason. And so maybe that could even be better with a rewatch. I'm quite optimistic here. And for the Road to Love, it's much, much easier because it's a very, very simpler movie, more on the nose, pretty straightforward, in your face, a little bit over the top. I mean, just look at this. I love this. Oh, no, come on. No focus. It's still focused on my face. It's very nice that my camera cares about showing my face instead of the lady with the chainsaw. But like I said, the movie is more on the nose, more direct, very clear. I think the book was maybe so this is based on a book, and seemingly I tried to find some spoiler reviews because I wanted confirmation for something that I wasn't 100% sure about in the movie, and seemingly the book is a little bit different. I think it's like 10 years old or so, So yeah, you have some different elements that now are presented in a different way. There's something about a diary. There was no diary in the movie, so I suppose maybe that's the Twitter feed we see, so it got a little bit modernized. But yeah, I haven't read the book, so I'm not sure. But yeah, it seems to be a little bit different. Anyway, so yeah, it's a very like melodrama where stuff just gets worse, sometimes without any reason or any announcing. It's just more suffering for the suffering's sake. And I mean, there's a long history of movies about women's suffering in Japanese cinema history, so that's nothing new. And this whole story of the cheating husband or potentially cheating husband is nothing new. So, yeah, I think here, very similar to Desert of Namibia, where I hoped the movie could have been more surreal. Here, I think the movie should have been more over the top, more crazy family than just a normal melodrama. Like, it has this like chainsaw, and she holds the chainsaw like a baby, and it's amazing and it's wonderful. And I think this movie had so much potential to be a really like messed up, goofy trip to hell. Would have been way more exciting. Like go completely crazy with this stuff. But yeah, then it decides to stay relatively grounded in reality with just some weird moments. This one is much cleaner when it comes to the presentation. It looks very nice, but yeah, Desert of Namibia looks more like a typical indie movie, more grounded. Yeah, I would say more modern, and this one is more like the classical, glossy presentation. Not bad, not bad, just a different style. I liked both, and this one is much shorter. It's more to the point. It's much easier to understand what's going on, even though yeah, there's some tricky stuff. But yeah, very interesting to see. It's a complete coincidence that I watched these two. I just checked. I knew I wanted to see both at some point, so I checked. They both played in the same cinema, so I checked the cinema schedule, and somehow they planned it that both play in the same uh, cinema in this just one after another with like a 15-minute break. And I was like, yeah, cool. I'll just watch both. I sat in the same seat, and there was a interesting experience to see these very similar movies in a row, and basically two very different approaches to a very similar topic, like relationship issues, mental decay, and this stuff. And I would recommend both. I would recommend Desert of Namibia more. It's a much better movie. It gives a very interesting portrait of the current generation, and Road to Love is way more old-fashioned, way more based in old gender roles and stuff. And yeah, Desert of Namibia is the way more interesting movie. Some things I'm not sure how they work out. Like, for example, why is it called Desert of Namibia? Yeah, she watches some documentaries about it. I didn't really get that. Maybe I missed a detail in the dialogue or something. Totally possible. My Japanese is far from perfect, but yeah, I think that is the much more interesting movie to analyze in detail, to really discuss and see what actually what was actually going on there. While Road to Love is something you watch once and it's fine, you get the idea, and it's all good. Yeah, but yeah, let's go a little bit into spoiler territory. I guess at least the Desert of Namibia will show up at some festivals. Hello, Nippon Connection. Um, because yeah, it's one of the big Japanese dramas of the year, and Yumi Kawai is the big actress of the year. So I guess they will bring it up at some point. But yeah, let's stick with that for the spoiler part a little bit. What's very interesting here is usually very often we have stories about cheating guys, cheating men, like Rude to Love does that. And here it's our protagonist, but she basically just lies to everyone. What I thought is super interesting here, just when she meets her friend at the beginning in the cafe, like her friend tells her this depressing story of this boy who died, and we can't even really follow the story because we suddenly switch to her perspective and she listens to the conversation on the other table, and then she has some phone stuff to do, and there's something that always distracts her and she doesn't really care, just and funnily enough, that's the same that in Rude to Love the husband does. Like she tells him what's going on, like, oh, someone burned the garbage at the garbage collecting place, and yeah, like he doesn't care at all what she's talking about, and basically the same situation, just yeah. Now, one time the protagonist does that to another person, one time someone does it to the protagonist. So basically switched roles. And yeah, like I said, she goes out with her friend and leaves her friend behind, drunk, with like 4 dudes. Like, no normal person would do that to their friend. Like, no, anything can happen there. But she doesn't care. She's like, oh yeah, she's popular with the guys. It will be fine. But that's something where you can feel, okay, maybe they have a little bit weird relationship, or maybe that's something she does. But it's a very strange thing to do. Like, most women I know wouldn't let one of her friends alone, drunk with 4 guys in a bar. So that's very weird. And this first conversation about the guy who died sets the tone, basically. And yeah, like I mentioned in the beginning, she has 2 boyfriends. One of them at some point demands that she leaves the other one, and she's living with the other one. And at some point she just says okay, and moves in with a new one. And she never told the other one. She just disappeared, as we realize later. So she does a lot of really horrible stuff, and it's very weird because she has this manic pixie dream girl energy, while being literally like manic. That's something crazy. Yeah, and she gets this nose piercing, and he gets a tattoo, like a really ugly dolphin drawing on his arm. I don't understand why people get a tattoo here. Most of them look strange. Yeah, there must be a better place with a better design to get a first tattoo. That was a bad choice. Anyway, yeah, so it's interesting to see how this new relationship yeah, basically breaks down. What's interesting here is, like, you see her first boyfriend, who seems to be a totally fine, very nice, very polite guy, very good, like the typical textbook good guy, and she leaves him for the little bit more dangerous, little bit more exciting guy. And that's a very textbook thing to do. But in the end, I feel like the roles of the guys switched a little bit, because the kindness of the first guy just turns into being a crying mess and not very likable and strange, while the other one, in the end, actually, like, I felt like at some point he would just say, no, I can't take this anymore and I'm leaving you. But no, he just puts up with all her stuff and goes through with it. And then they have some really, really ugly situations, and both guys act in a manner that I feel like, oh, that's pretty terrible too. So that's the other thing in between. Sometimes you're not sure, like, is she actually the bad one, or are the guys behaving worse? And to go back to Rude to Love, there's a similar thing. Like, usually for the most part, you think that this husband is a terrible human and his mother is not much better, because of course he's cheating on her, and at some point he demands similarly to break up with her to be with his new girlfriend, who he made a child with, and completely terrible, and she can't handle the situation. She's like, no, you're not gonna leave you. You have to come with me back home and stay with me. And here the thing is that later comes out that she actually got him from another woman, and she was pregnant as well at that time. So she basically did the same thing. She just didn't have the baby in the end. And that's another thing. Like, it always seems like she's looking for her cat. In the end, comes out that she's actually looking for her unborn child and just misses it terribly. And it's just depressing and horrible in a very crazy way, because she uses this chainsaw to saw up the floor of the house and dig a hole and find a little box with the baby clothes that she seemingly bought at that time. And just horrible. But it's interesting to see how similar these movies are. Like, in both you have this, hey, they try to force a breakup, which happens more or less, and people don't seem who they are to be. So very interesting. And like I said, Desert of Namibia has at some point this insane scene that I loved so much. It was so good. Like, at some point she just starts to fight with him. Like, here in this letterboxed summary, it says she's bipolar. I'm not an expert for mental illnesses, but as far as I know, that means that sometimes you're very happy and sometimes you're very depressed. And here it's basically the same. There's one scene where she comes home with her boyfriend, and she has a cute little what is it called? A plushed animal. And they're very happy and playing, and as soon as they enter the apartment, she starts a physical fight with him. And like, the longer the movie goes, the more she starts attacking people, like kicking, punching, everything. And in one of these fight scenes is the crazy idea that she watches herself fighting her boyfriend while being on a treadmill, and she watches it on the on her smartphone, and it's a completely like pink room, and yeah, she's just completely disconnected from the situation in her mental state of running on a treadmill and getting nowhere, being stuck somewhere and exhausted. And it's interesting that she actually realizes that she needs help, and it's never really verbalized that she's like, oh, I need help, but suddenly there's a like Zoom call, video call, and there's a psychologist who helps her, and suddenly she gets counseling, and even her boyfriends, they never have this conversation. That is just another fight scene where she's like hanging on him, punching him, and he tries to somehow calm her down and get rid of her, and he puts her gently on the ground, and she's just exhausted lying there, and he looks at her and asks her like, are you hungry? Like, he's at the point where he's totally okay with her situation, and he has to put up with all this stuff to help her get through it, and that's suddenly great and very nice, and that's what I was so surprised about. Like, I felt, okay, at some point he will break and just say, no, I'm not getting here attacked by you on a daily basis or something. I'm not taking this anymore. That's too horrible. But no, he just goes through with it and accepts what's going on, and to helps her, probably, I don't know, at least doesn't run away, and that's very interesting. And yeah, while in Rude to Love, there's just more decay, more destruction, and in the end our protagonist can just get more emotional rest by destruction and ending things very definitely. And it's yeah, in a way a very satisfying end here, very interesting. But yeah, like I said, it's an interesting double feature. I said interesting too many times, I'm very sorry. But yeah, while Rude to Love is obviously the less good movie, it was very nice to see both in one sitting, and having very different experiences with very similar topics, and that's a very rare thing to happen, at least by accident. I mean, I couldn't have planned this double feature better. I just by switching the order around. But yeah, good, great. If you have the chance to watch one of these movies, I would recommend it, especially Desert of Namibia. And yeah, I mean, if you have the chance to see Road to Love, go for it. It's a good movie. There's a lot with crows and burning garbage, and yeah, just the need for a chainsaw and some acknowledgement that you did well. That helps sometimes too. So thank you very much. I guess that's all I have to say, or I will say interesting many times more, and I don't want that. So have a good rest of the day or night or whatever, and see you soon when we talk about more stuff. I have an idea what's next, because there's the next big comedy coming tomorrow morning. I'm very excited. It's called All About Suomi, I think is the English title, by Koki Mitani, who is a very brilliant human, and I'm very excited to watch that. So